On a scorching hot afternoon's day here in the African bush, the team of Safari Live is heading out to find out where all of the animals are sheltering from the heat. This is Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
And a very good afternoon to all of you, and welcome on our sunset safari. My name is Jamie, and the man behind the camera is Viam, back from leave once again. And as I said, we're heading out into Djuma, Arathusa and Cheetah Plains game reserves in the Sabi Sand in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. And I have to tell you that on this sunset safari, I imagine that the sunset will be welcomed by many of the creatures out here. I said it was scorching, bearing in mind that we are not yet even in the middle of summer just yet. It is 37 degrees centigrade, so 98 Fahrenheit, and the sky is a funny yellowy, orangey, bluey kind of combination. There's obviously a fire blazing somewhere in the low veld, and the smoke is drifting across towards us. So yes, an interesting afternoon to be heading out on safari. Now, if you do have any questions for us, remember we are live, which means that anything could happen, and we welcome anything that you would like to ask or any comments that you would like to make, and you can do that on #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv. The inimitable Brent Leo Smith is out with Brian on Wendy. We also have Mr. Henry, the wonderfully entertaining gentleman, keeping us company in the tent. And as far as I know, Steph will also be out on bushwalk this very fine afternoon. So we've got all kinds of exciting possibilities planned for you as things start to get busier and busier for the Safari Live team. All kinds of exciting things planned. Some are surprise and some are not. I'll try and stop for these birds, but they are not cooperating. Stop! Stop, you horrible creatures. There's a bird party. There we go. Well done. We've got a chagra. We've got a bird feeding. Oh, we had a chagra. Sorry, Vempi. There's a drongo. Thank you. Okay, well, starting off our afternoon with a fork-tailed drongo. I think the other one was a brown-crowned chagra, but I was so busy remembering how to drive and actually stop the car that I didn't notice whether it was brown-crowned or black-crowned. There is a massive buffalo herd somewhere in the middle of this block. I could see them from Impala Road, and I thought I'd try and do a loop just to see whether or not they'd be visible from the road, but they are deep in the block underneath the shade of some of the larger marula trees. I don't think they plan on coming out anytime soon. Oh, an afternoon like this afternoon, we will be heading to check the water holes. I imagine that Brent's plan will be something similar as well. And that's probably the best course of action for an afternoon like this afternoon. You don't have to just take my word for it. Let's head across to Brent so that he can say hello to you all and fill you in on his plans.
Oh, hello. It is a blistering 37 degrees Celsius. It's well over 100 Fahrenheit. So if you look behind me, I'm doing exactly what the nyalas are doing. I'm having a snooze in the shade. So I'm copping the wildlife today. Of course, my name is Brent. Welcome on this live safari. I'm not going to lie here for too long. I've got my very good friend and fellow killer bee, Brian, on camera. And of course, this morning, unfortunately, the lions decided to leave us and go to Buffel's Hook. So that's why you see we have a little lion cub who's going to be on the game drive with us. So we won't be without lions, even though they might have departed. Now, as I was saying, you could see I was having a little snooze in the shade there. And I was doing the exact same as those over my shoulder there. So what they've done is at the heat of the day, they've moved down towards a little river system like this, and they're having a little snooze. Now, of course, I have too much energy to snooze at this time of the day. So I'm searching for elephants at the moment. I know there are some down and around the Juma Pan a bit earlier. So I've done a big loop. I haven't seen where they've come out, so hopefully they're around here somewhere. Now remember, this is a live African safari, and when I'm not snoozing, I do answer questions, and you can do that by sending the questions to questions@wildearth.tv, or you can use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and see what happens. It's a good lesson for everyone. If you lay about at work, you get punished, just as I have, with a thorn in the back. Okay, there we go. Nasty little buffalo thorn. Well, that teaches you, don't lie around on the job. Now, of course, today is quite exciting, because not only are myself and Jamie out and about in search of wonderful creatures, we've of course got the winter farmer, Stefan, around on foot looking for all sorts of wonderful little creatures, and James is back in his tent, hopefully with lots of fascinating stories and creatures and drawings to show you. And there we go, our first animal apart from the snoozing Inyala, although they're doing exactly the same. In the shade, there's a young snoozing male kudu. Now, fortunately for us, as I said, it is very hot, but it's quite a dry heat, so it's actually quite pleasant out here. Well, I suppose it depends if you like being hot or not. I find it very pleasant. And look who's decided to come join us. Now, see, you can see the kudu are looking at something, and something's just walked out of the little river system. You can see his dark shape. There he is. Let's see if we can get a bit of a better view. Oh, no, there he is, and lift his head for us. Nice big male giraffe. Now, of course, quite apt that we see giraffe today, since today is the day that some very interesting research was released, and it was always considered to be one species of giraffe with multiple subspecies. There are now 4 different species of giraffe and subspecies of those 4. Now this is the southern giraffe. And lots of oxpeckers on his head, eating all the little ectoparasites, ticks and fleas and whatnot. Oh, he's pushing the kudu out of the shade. Shame on you, Mr. Giraffe. Could have moved now. Now, even though it is hot, normally you would find giraffe not being too mobile at this time of the day. Because of the drought, the bigger animals are going to have to move around more and feed more. In particular, elephants, but also giraffe. There we go, eating a gori bush. Now, gori bush, if I remember correctly, the Afrikaans name for it is a taaibos, which means a tough bush. So not very tasty, not very appetizing, but one of the few evergreens that's still sporting leaves, and a lot of animals are taking the chance to eat, well, not taking the chance, are forced into eating stuff they would not normally eat. Normally, a giraffe would prefer a nice sweet kasha, but in drought, one must eat what one can. I'm also listening very carefully while we sit here for those elephants. I wonder where they've gone to. Now, apart from it being a whopping 37, which I think is 100 and... 100 and?
97, 98.
No, I think it must be over 100.
40 is 104.
98. Well, it feels like it's over 100. There's quite a stiff breeze. Now, whenever there's a stiff breeze in the bush, it does make certain species of animals a little bit jumpy, although in the heat they might not be too bad. But let's leave Gerald the giraffe to munch on his taaibos, his tough bush, and hopefully catch up with these ellies. I haven't seen any tracks crossing here, so they should be around. James Richards hoping for lots of elephants today. Me too, James. And with this heat, I think a lot of us are planning, or Jamie and I are certainly planning to hit the waterholes. Elephants. There we go. Hello, little one. Where's the rest of your herd? I think they're on this little road that goes down into the Mwati River. Now, elephants, there we go, you can see slightly nervous, so that's why I've stopped. Elephants in the wind as well sometimes can be a little bit unrelaxed. So what I'm going to do is stop, let the little guy relax. I'm pretty sure the rest of the herd is in the shade below him in the river system, in the mighty Mwati, or well, a raging sand river. I don't think I've seen it flow since I've been here. But of course these little rivers do flow seasonally, if there's enough rain about. Hey, little one. If you listen carefully, it is quite hard with this wind. You can just hear what almost sounds like an elephant blowing dust, or blowing dust down below. This time of the day always amazes me how absolutely still it is. There's almost not even a bird moving around us. The odd hornbill making a noise, and everything seems to move more slowly in the heat. You see on the opposite bank, Brian. Okay. No, just go. I want to show. I think it's in that. Oh no, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. Let me just go back a little bit. Now, incredibly, an animal as massive as an elephant can disappear into the bush. Now, if we look through there, that is an elephant. You just occasionally see a little flick of the tail. There we go, you can see the ears and the trunk now. There we go, starting to make out. Wonderful. So there's a herd here. Now I want to go. Do you think they've drunk yet? I don't know. Well, I'm going to try see if we can get a view down into the river of all these elephants while I move around. Jamie has got another great grey beast to show you.
Red Dam, checking all of the water holes, we have a pretty standard resident now at one of the few water sources remaining on Arathusa, a big bull hippo that has taken advantage of the pumped water hole. Oh, giving us a little bit of a demonstration of the world famous hippo tail dung flick. You can see he's a little bit unsettled, so I've been giving him plenty of space. Now, typically, a hippo in water is one of the most comfortable creatures on Earth, but as their water holes start to shrink, they become more insecure. They can't actually fully submerge themselves, and as a result, they become more nervous and also slightly more aggressive. Now, we're giving him plenty of space between ourselves and the vehicle. He's looking okay. He's not looking as bad as some of the hippo we've seen over the drought in the last few months and weeks. Is he gonna roll? I think he's gonna give us a full roll, submerging his back, cooling it down since it's been out of the water over the last few hours. Oh boy. Keeping a very, very close eye on us. Their skin is incredibly sensitive to the sun, which is one of the big reasons why they are, during the day, pretty much solely aquatic creatures. This drought is forcing them more and more onto land, particularly because it's very difficult for them to meet their nutritional requirements, to eat as much as they need to eat in order to sustain their massive body size. Look how perfectly adapted he is to live in the water. And his eyes and his ears situated right at the top of his head, so that he can rest underwater and still keep an eye or an ear out on whatever's going on around him. He doesn't have any major injuries, which we typically see with these big bull hippos at this time of year and during these drought conditions, just because they spend a lot of time fighting with each other over water sources. Now, on a good year, when there's plenty of water around, the hippopotamus are more than happy to share and share alike, and they'll all be in the same big water hole, and nobody really has a problem. But as those areas start to shrink, it becomes more and more difficult, and they become cagier and cagier, until eventually they get to the point where they start to seriously fight each other. And hippo can mortally wound each other with those massive tusks that protrude from their mouths. The bottom ones are forward facing like daggers, and the top ones downward facing to create the perfect weapons. Shame, boy. And of course he's also got to share this water hole with animals that might decide to come and have a drink. We saw the other day, we had impala walking up towards the pan, and they were chased away by the hippopotamus. And Gracie, I was so hoping that you were watching this afternoon, because I know that hippo are one of your favorite animals. So Gracie is 9 years old and wants to know, can hippos see underneath the water, the surface of the water, or do they close their eyes? And the answer is they can see underneath the surface of the water. So what they do, as you know, Gracie, hippo are one of the few animals that can't actually swim. So what they do instead is they sink to the bottom, and they walk along. If it's deep water, they'll walk along the bottom of the water. And to do that, they have to look where they're going. Make sure they don't bump into anything, maybe into a rock, or perhaps a crocodile, although crocodiles are not a threat to a big hippopotamus. You'll be happy to know that this particular hippo is looking very, very healthy. So he's still okay. He's not too thin. He's not injured, and at least he's got the water at Red Dam, which they will continue to pump for as long as they can. And it looks as though, somewhat tragically, that the predictions of the La Nina rainfall that was meant to come, and we were going to have lots and lots of rain early in the year, it's starting to look less and less likely. There have been a few articles recently that basically have said that it's probably not going to happen, and that South Africa is going to stay in the grips of this drought. And as a result, well, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Brian is convinced that it's going to rain on the 20th, but I don't know. Ellie Shiva, very, very good point from you, because I've just automatically said to you it's a he, and I haven't really explained to you how I know that. And it's actually quite difficult with adult hippopotamus. The thing that you're really looking for is the size of a bull hippopotamus. They are bigger than the females, and their head structure, the sort of the bones of the skull are slightly more defined. It's also just in terms of behavior. The fact that he has managed to secure this, what is at this point a prime position for a hippopotamus. Might not look it, he might not be fully submerged, but there are a lot of hippopotamus out there that we've seen and encountered every now and again that are standing all on their own in the shade of the vegetation, trying to survive the day because they haven't managed to get themselves to a water hole and get themselves into a comfortable position. I know now that these two, this hippopotamus and the one that was at Arathusa Dam and moves between there and Simbombili, I know that they've been fighting a great deal. I've heard the other guides talking of it, which is why I was actually quite surprised to see that he is uninjured, relatively uninjured. Sure, this wind doesn't help either. 37 degrees is one thing, but when you add wind as well, you basically double the evaporation effect that it has. And whilst Red Dam is pumped, just bear in mind that that water has to come from somewhere. And they're bringing it up from deep beneath the surface of the soil, but that is not an infinite supply. And at some point it will have to be stopped, unless it rains, of course. As I said, Brian predicts early rain. Brian seems to know things that other people don't. What do you think, VM? Have you given a date?
Yes, I said the 1st of...
1st of?
I think next month.
1st of October. we've got a bet going as to when the first 20 mil plus rain will be. I said the 23rd of October. We've all been super optimistic. There are thoughts that it's not going to happen until December, but let's cross that bridge if and when we come from it. For now, our poor hippo will just have to try and make do with the amount of water that he has. Of course, the Sabi sand did try and lessen the effect of this situation by removing a number of hippopotamus to parts of South Africa where there's a little bit more water. Sure. There you go, another roll. I'm hoping that he might give us a full roll, which is quite rare to see. I don't think so. He's just shifting and dampening the skin on his back. He's also displaying a little bit for us, so it's multi-purpose. Now Haley has said that she always thought that water would make your skin burn more in the sun. Perhaps pool water or ocean water, but I think that's actually more with people. It's more because their sunblock gets washed off and they spend a lot of time, and the extra reflection off the surface of the water, it increases the sunburn effect. For the hippopotamus in a muddy pool, if it was deep enough to cover him up, then it would be absolutely fine. He'd be away from the glare, it absorbs most of it, and their skin does lose moisture very, very quickly. That's one of the reasons why they try not to stand out in the sun. They do secrete a red substance known as blood sweat. It is not actually blood sweat, but it is a sort of red, oily substance that scientists are now discovering, acts as both a sunblock and an antibacterial. It has an antibacterial effect to sort of help clean out wounds on the hippo's skin, because as you can imagine, they live in dirty, muddy water all the time, and as we can see, have no compunction about defecating, which is what he's been doing while we've been sitting here. So as you can imagine, even the smallest cuts could potentially become very, very infected very quickly. That's why they secrete that antibiotic-style liquid. And it's something that scientists and biologists have been really looking into the chemical structure of to try and imitate for sunblock for human beings. Which is, of course, we're both wearing multiple layers of sunblock this afternoon, trying to shelter ourselves from the sun. And on that note, I think we're going to keep moving. We're going to try and move into a dense drainage line area where there's plenty of shade and where hopefully the animals will be hiding out as well. Let's go back across to Brent and his other very large animal.
So there we go. We've got down into the Mawati riverbed and we're sitting with the elephants. Isn't this absolutely beautiful? Now, elephants, if they could, I'm sure would like to have a rest and a snooze in the heat of the day. But unfortunately for them and their large body size, they have to keep constantly eating to make sure they've got enough sustenance. A nice big adult female here. And she's actually getting right under an old fallen tree and getting any little bit of vegetation that other animals might not have been able to get to. So we actually a lot of elephants around here. We're probably about 25 or 30 spread through this area. Unfortunately, you only get a really good view of one. The others are up in the Timbwurti thicket, enjoying a bit of shade. I found out some interesting information about this very dry period we're going through. So reliable weather records have been kept in South Africa since about 1903. And this is the driest ever recorded period since then. And of course, as in with every year when the rains come, the Wild Earth crew have their rain bets. Brian, you were this month,
Yep, 20th.
20th of September.
Oh, yeah.
Brian thinks it's going to rain. I think Dave was
18th.
18th. Liam, can't remember the last time I asked him. But I think you're all wrong. I say it's going to... Did I say the 10th? No, I said the 20th, I think, of October. X-Ranger would like to know, what does the winner of the rain bet win? Well, massive bragging rights, of course, and sort of, well, I suppose it gives you sort of voyeuristic powers to see the future. Kathy thinks it's going to rain on October 5th. That is the beginning of daylight savings for them. Well, Kathy, I like your... October's a good month. Better than September, Brian.
Now the great floods are coming.
The great floods are coming. Of course, there's much debate about... Well, apparently I've been saying La Nina wrong. How else would you say La Nina?
La Nina.
La Nina. There we go. La Nina. There we go. And my current research into La Nina... I'm going to do one with La Nina. La Nina is that it is dropped to a 12% chance. So it looks like we're in for another very dry patch. So no. So, but then how do we say El Nino?
El Nino.
El Nino. So we're in El Nino, not La Nina. Now, one of the reasons elephants have to eat so much is that their digestive system isn't the most effective out in the bush, unlike a ruminant. They only successfully digest about 65 to 70% of what they eat. Now, that is a food source for other animals, particularly quite a few bird species. Now, the reason they're probably designed like this is, well, they're great fertilizers, and if they were efficient, they wouldn't push down as many trees and break as many branches. And the bush actually needs that. And elephants are one of our keystone species. So they have the ability to shape and change the bush, particularly in a very dry year like this. So it's really important to have healthy populations of elephants. Oh dear, Brian, they're starting. I thought we might have a month or two without them. Oh, the wind is keeping it away. I'll see if it lands on me again. But tiny little stingless bees that, with the lack of water, decide your eyes, the moisture from your eyes and your sweat is a great source of moisture. They literally buzz around you. Now, you can't squash them either, because if you squash one, it releases a pheromone that lets all the others know where you are. And there must be a water source if you're protecting it and squashing them. Oh, there we go. There's one, Brian. Oh, it took off again. I'm letting you land on me. Only this once. There we go. Oh, it's taken off again. So, oh, and the wind's got him. They are also called Mopani bees. As Mopani country is quite dry country. Normally found a bit further north. And when you get into the Mopanis in the dry season and there's no water about, they literally swarm around your head. They can be very, like that one's doing to me now. They can be very, very irritating. I'm just going to try reposition, see if we can get a better view of those ellie under the shade. And escape before the Mopani bees all find out where I'm hiding. How's that looking, Brian? Maybe back a bit more? Like, good? So there we go. Those ones are taking a break from feeding and having a little rest in the shade. Oh! Sound like there's some more at the Juma waterhole. Unfortunately, they're guests in camp, so we aren't able to go there just yet. magical creatures, ellies. Now, since it's so hot and we're doing what all the other animals are doing, we're sitting in a little riverbed, I think I've got a quiz for you. I think it should be on elephants, since we are looking at these magnificent beasts. What country in Africa has the largest population of savanna elephants? What country in Africa has the largest population of savanna elephants? If you know the answer, questions at wildearth.tv or hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. And of course, there you go. There's the Ari. It's not always about the big hairies and scaries. If we come out, Brian, there's a little chagra. Okay, a little bit to the right, and a zoom on the base, that fallen log there. There he is. Hello. If you sit quietly for a while in places, you get to see things like quite nice sightings of chagras and robins. They are what you call skulking species, so they tend to scuttle about in the undergrowth like that, and constantly on the move, even in this heat. Not very vocal at the moment, but on the move. Looking for any unsuspecting insect. Now we're going to sit here, relax with the ellies, but without further ado, there's someone who would like to bid you a good afternoon from what I think we're calling the sauna. So let's go see who it is.
It is not, in fact, a sauna. It is rather pleasant here in my tent. Eggsy is on camera. Welcome back from leave, Eggsy. Yes, lovely to have you with us. I'm glad you don't have any further ink to your body. Yes, the amount you have right now is quite sufficient. My name is James Hendry, and we're sitting in what is sort of a museum/tent idea here, and we're all sort of gearing up for a sort of expanded version of the show, I suppose, and we're hoping that the tent will be here almost permanently. We're as live as Brent and Jamie are, which means we'd love to hear from you. Hashtag Safari Live, question at wildearth.tv. I'm trying to be able to say that in 2 seconds. The first amazing thing I'm going to show you from here is a feed from the microscope. Eggsy, would you have a look here? There we are. And now the flower is rather... You lost audio because we came back. Okay, right. Okay, I'm with you now. Anyway, we will be able to see this again in much better detail. I don't think we can use a microscope right now. Let me just pull it out. Eggsy. And in fact, you know what? Eggsy, can you put your camera on that screen over there and see what that looks like? Tell me if it looks horrid or if it looks okay.
It looks
horrid.
yeah.
Okay. Anyway, there you are. That's a brief version. I'll tell you what it is now. Okay. One of the first flowers of the spring, the second flower. We've had the knobthorns, many knobthorns around now. This is a lovely flower called mbezana. So if you are perhaps a younger viewer or just an older viewer wanting to engage in audience participation, mbezana, otherwise known as the bushman's grape, or in Afrikaans the paardepus, which means the horse's urine plant. And that's because it smells of horse's urine. Would you like to smell it, Eggsy? Are you sure? Are you quite sure? Anyway, that's what it smells like, and very nice to see that it's blooming just outside the tent here. Geraldine, turn your telephone off or I shall beat you. We are live. Now, come and have a look over here. Linda, you say this is your first time in the tent, and should you be scared? Linda, it is my considered opinion that you should be terrified out of your wits. The tent is a terrifying, scary place. There are dead things all over it. Look at it, Eggsy. There's just a lot of death in here. I mean, if you were to come, it's quite likely we'd have to dissect you. But given the distance that you have from us now, I think you'll be okay. Now, one of the stars of the Father's Day show, Eggsy, if you put the camera there, was these amazing stingless bees that live in the skull of Gerald the giraffe. Now, were the microphone working and microscope working, we'd be able to show you. You can see there the little stingless bee going in and out, retreating and coming, coming out to build that little waxy tunnel. Now, we'll try and just give you another view using the same screen technique as we used. So Eggsy will just watch me do this, then I shall get a picture on it. There we are, Eggsy. You can put it on the screen now if you don't mind. Now just watch there. Look! There he is! Can you see him, Eggsy?
Yeah.
This is fantastic. Now everybody, there are a few teething problems here in the new tent set up here. It is very out of Africa, of course, but for Meryl Streep and old Robert Redford, it's virtually the same. And eventually you will be able to look at this in glorious high definition. It won't be Eggsy filming a feed from it. Isn't that amazing? And I think these little things are going to become the stars of our show. I know Karula and Shongila and Hosanna and the Nkuhumas and their little cubs and all the elephants, the half-trunk herd. They're our favourite characters, but these chaps have been something of a revelation. They've been living in this giraffe skull now, I think probably for the best part of a year. I think we first discovered them during the Big Cat Week in February, and maybe even just before that. So we hope that they are going to continue to live there. Don't go anywhere. See, they make a very delicious but quite sour honey, and these are stingless bees. There we are. Excuse me. I think I inhaled a piece of giraffe skull. Right, that's the giraffe skull. We're going to find various things out here. Just before we go across to Jamie, I just want to show you our surrounds over here. There is quarantine clearings, that is up there. The western horizon off to that sort of side over there, and then the sun will come up over that way. And this, just take a note of this, because by the time our TV shows come round in January and we're broadcasting from here, this will be verdant green, if we get any rain. Let's head across to Jamie and find out what she has to show you.
Well, I did have some kudu to show you. I think they've gone. Oh, there's one. There is the disappearing back.
It's like a fish mouth.
Audio's still on. No one knows why. Oh yeah. It does look like a fish moth, doesn't it? We're still live with audio, everybody.
Days. Usually the animals are out on the top of the banks where it's shady, but there's also a little bit of a breeze. So they don't really sit in the middle of the drain plants, but they do sit... Oh goodness, I'm going to go tumbling down. No. Nope, those kudu have gone. They have absolutely vanished. Nope. I will try one more time, but either way you can carry on with us along our river cruise. We're in almost in the exact spot. If you cast your mind back, those of you who've been watching for a considerable period of time, this is where the Nkuhumas had a buffalo kill before the Birmingham boys conducted their takeover. So we had an amazing sighting of the Nkuhumas. It's where, for those of you who look back, you'll remember James had this incredible sighting where one of the lionesses, and I think it was Amber Eyes, went and stood and stared straight at him, straight into his eyes, and just stared. She just...
So we are behaving just like the elephants at the moment. So while we're not live, we're sitting in the shade. My ears aren't flapping quite as much as those ellies are, but let's go have a look. Now, of course, an elephant's ears are its air conditioning system. And even though they're standing very still in the shade, their ears are flapping away. Now, they can have about 8 liters, which is just under 2 gallons, US gallons. I know there's lots of different types of gallons, but 2 US gallons of blood in their ears. So as the blood's cooled by the flapping ears, it's transported through to the rest of the body. And this is one of those incredible evolutionary adaptations that it enables elephants to sleep. I said sleep, and I'll tell you why in a second, but to feed and move throughout the day. Now, elephants very seldom sleep, but Brian's on the super zoom and he's on the trunk. But if he goes a little bit to the left, down on the ground, Brian, I just noticed it now. Keep going. Keep going. Look at that there. Fast asleep. I just saw it at the last second. That's why I said sleep when I was talking about air conditioning. So when they are young, the little ones, on really hot days like this, will absolutely have a snooze. I've even heard them snore. And look at that. Now, just have a close look. Sorry, I'm leaning in there. Well done to Raisa, Sylvia. Oh, it looks like it's dreaming. Raisa, Sylvia, and Kelly, many others who are correct. The African country that has got the largest population of savanna elephants is indeed Botswana. Most of those are all up in the north of the country. I'm quite jealous of that little guy. Looks like he's really comfortable. Isn't that just special? See little twitches on his nose every now and then. Now, of course, in droughts like this, the young do have quite a hard time. Although I think this one's just having a snooze. It's quite common for baby ellies to do that at this time of the day, especially with the heat we're experiencing today. Isn't that absolutely wonderful? Now, we can have a nice look at that foot there, and you can see the toenails quite clearly. Now, that is an incredibly designed shock absorber to be able to take the massive body weight of an elephant. So the bones from those toes actually go upwards, and you can see that sort of almost conical shape there. Now, in between those bones is a massive cartilaginous sponge, a big shock absorber that enables them to carry that massive weight. And it's obviously more pronounced in the front feet, and that's a front foot, whereas they've got to carry that massive shoulders and heavy head of an African elephant. Now, of course, ellies don't have to trim their toenails like us. And it happens naturally as they walk through the bush. Hi, Susie. Susie's in Florida. Susie says, do any of the older elephants accidentally step on the little one? I've seen them sort of bump it, but not sort of step on top of, but sort of bump with their foot, yes. It does happen from time to time. Okay. Now, even though those ellies are standing, they are sort of dozing rather than full sleeping. Those lovely long eyelashes. Of course, they're there for protection against all the sticks, spines, and thorns while they're feeding. Isn't this absolutely magical? And can you believe we didn't even notice that little ellie earlier? Is there more than one sleeping there, or just one? I think maybe just one. Maybe more than one. Maybe it's a little elephant pal. No, I can only see one. I'm hoping a little later they might head for a bit of splishing and splashing in the Juma pan. But at the moment this little herd looks quite content. As are the killer bees. Very content to sit with elephants. They do give you give me a very lovely feeling of sort of well-being. Like all is right in the world when you're surrounded by elephants. I think some people might disagree with me. What do you think, Brian?
Definitely.
Definitely. Hi, James Dungan. Now, James is asking about something that Brian and I had a long chat about this morning. We actually even did a bit of Googling after drive about the new anthrax that's been found in the northern forests. Well, it's not that new. So from the reading we did, it's found in 2001 originally on a chimpanzee. Now, which makes it quite unusual. It's a cousin of anthrax. It's not really an anthrax. But it actually, you need two separate bacteria to be together for it to become fatal. Normally, it's not fatal at all. But there have been very few recorded cases, but it has been known about since 2001. I can't remember its name offhand. Do you remember its name, Brian? I did save its name, just in case someone asked a question just like James.
Bacillus.
I'm trying to remember where I saved that name. Oh, I'll have to check later. It's on my iPad. Now, John's wondering whether elephants are all facing separate ways to protect the youngster. I think it's more to take advantage of the shade, John. But elephants do corral around youngsters when there is a threat, but there's no threat currently. There we go, I found that now. It's a bacillus, which is the same family as anthrax. Now, I'm actually surprised we haven't had any more anthrax in this area during the drought. It does come through from time to time. There we go, Bacillus cereus, which is has co-opted the two pathogen segments of DNA that made it as dangerous as its cousin. bacillus anthracicus. So they have known about it for quite some time, but they've been trying to figure out what it is. And so far, it's been found in goat, gorilla, elephant, and chimps. And they're still working on how it is dispersed. So, of course, anthrax is dispersed in the spores of a fungi. A bacteria needs that fungus to procreate and multiply. But we're going to sit here with these eddies. As I said, I'm hoping they're going to head for a drink shortly, and we're going to wait to go see them a splishing and a splashing. While we do that, Jamie has got probably one of the happiest birds because it's a drought.
Very happy, and it looks like very productive white-backed vultures sitting on their nest. A sort of random tangled collection of twigs and branches. Any raptor's bird's nest looks totally ridiculous. It always looks as though the slightest breath of wind could blow it down, and yet that is not the case at all. They're actually surprisingly solid structures. And just have a look at this nest, and then look at the branch that is slightly below it, and you'll see that it is covered in weeks' worth, quite possibly years' worth, of white-backed vulture excrement. And that tells me something which we sort of already knew about white-backed vultures, and that is that they often return to the same nest site year after year. Just like our Wahlberg's eagles that we sit and watch, that have just returned to the South African shores and just returned to their nest, we've got a beautiful pair of white-backed vultures sitting on top of their nest. So monogamous birds to a point, in that they will meet up and they will raise the chicks together, but you do see them mating with different birds as well. So it's not 100% true monogamy. You'll often, when you see vultures gathered in large groups, you'll see them mating quickly with different partners, or different males and females. So it's not 100% faithful monogamy, but this male and female pair here will will actually devote both of their attentions to looking after their new brood. Now, being white-backed vultures, they should be laying their eggs soon, if not already. And one of the things that they could be doing at the moment, now, in those of you watching in Europe or America, a lot of you will be familiar with the idea of birds sitting on their eggs to keep them warm. In South Africa, we have a completely different problem, and that is that the birds need to keep their eggs cool. So lots of different birds from our vulture parents here, and I think they might be trying to shade their eggs a little bit, to ostriches, to lapwings. All of them have evolved different ways of keeping their eggs cool on hot days like today. And it's amazing how obviously instinctively they know which temperature they will have to sit and stand guard over the eggs during the day and just shelter them from the beating rays of the sun. The interesting thing about vultures, or white-backed vultures, not all vultures, white-backed vultures, is that they choose to nest on the top of knobthorns, which is a peculiar choice because knobthorns are probably one of the most unstable of all of the trees. In this case, they're actually sitting in a dead tree standing, so to speak. It's been completely ring-barked by the elephants, so they've stripped away the bark there at the base. And what that means is that the tree is not getting any nutrients. There's no cambium layer remaining, which means the xylem and the phloem, that contain both water and nutrients respectively, will not be functioning. In other words, that tree is going to die. And their time, sitting on the top of that nest and the top of that tree, will be limited as the borer beetles and the termites start to rot that tree away. Knobthorns are also incredibly unstable trees. They have relatively shallow root systems, which is why on a heavy sort of windy day, you should never rest in the shade of a knobthorn, and you shouldn't pitch your camp underneath a knobthorn tree because they are liable to blow over. It's interesting that it's the approach of the white-backed vulture to nest on the top of a knobthorn tree. It does make sense that they take a relatively sparsely vegetated tree, so something that doesn't have much in the way of leaves, unlike the hooded vulture that prefers to nest in the dense green jackalberries and right beneath the canopy where their nests are hidden. The whiteback vultures don't have the same level of agility, which is why we always, I mean, most of you will know that by now, we always talk about the fact that when vultures come down to roost, they usually pick dead trees just because it's so much easier for them to land and to take off. And they nest at right at the tip top of the trees for that exact same reason. It's just easier for them to fly in. And so, what they will do when the eggs start to hatch is they will carry on their usual scavenging bent, and I know that Brent said that these are probably some of the happiest birds around, and yes, absolutely they will be, and they will continue to be happy birds throughout the dry season. They might even start to get to the point where they don't even need to share carcasses with lions and hyenas and other such predators. And a very big hello to all of the teachers at the Unconference. It is lovely to have you on board. Just a very quick introduction. My name is Jamie and I have Viam, the man behind the camera. Viam's quite camera shy, so the most you might see of him is the odd thumbs up every now and again. And we've got this amazing project going where essentially what we do is we broadcast live safaris twice a day, every day, for 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon. I'd love to tell you how it works, but I have absolutely no idea. There's some technology that happens. It is totally over my head, but it does work, and it means that we bring you a broadcast live from the middle of the African bush. To be more specific, for those of you familiar with this geography of this area, we are in Djuma, Arathusa and Cheetah Plains Game Reserve. The Mapanivis are trying to climb into my eyeballs. Please don't. They're desperate for moisture at the moment. It's boiling hot this afternoon. But we're coming to you from the sort of northern Sabi Sand area, so right up on the border, close to Orpen Gate, the border of the Kruger National Park, and of course completely open to that vast wilderness area. And starting off this afternoon with a nesting pair of white-backed vultures. Absolutely awesome. Alright, and we try that all again. I'm so sorry for those of you who were watching at the Teachers Unconference. I'm not sure whether or not you could hear any of that introduction. But my name is Jamie, and the gentleman behind the camera is Viam, and we are sitting with a pair of white-backed vultures perched on the top of a tree. Okay, well, apparently you guys can't hear us all that well, but for those of you who are watching on our live stream, let's pop over to Brent and see what's happening there.
Brent has never looked so good. I'm obviously joking. Come inside, everybody. I have found you an Uthika from a praying mantis. It's a very small one, and what it's sitting on is something called Catanarigum spinosa, and that is the spiny bone apple. And there's a very fancy word you can learn when you talk about the thorns that are at these sort of perpendicular, at least perpendicular angles. They are called decusate. Can you say that, Eggsy?
Decusate.
Decusate. Well done, Eggsy. Come with me, please. Let us go and put this under the microscope and have a see what it looks like. I'm going to sit down, Eggsy, because that is what my exalted designation allows me to do. You will remain standing, of course. Sorry for you. Now, let's go a little bit up here. Eggsy is just back from leave, by the way. He was holidaying. Where were you holidaying, Eggsy?
Pretoria.
In Pretoria. What a wonderful place for a holiday that must have been.
It was wonderful.
Yes. Right, there we are. How's that look, everybody? There's the Uthika of a very tiny praying mantis. I hope that you can still hear me. Kirsten, can you still hear me? Excellent. That is good news indeed. Isn't that rather special? And I'm just going to turn it around a little bit. Let me just whip it out. Hold on a sec. Yoop, yoop. It's back. Fear not. And what you can see there is the unbelievably fine hairs that it's made of. And that's a kind of silk, in much the same way that a caterpillar will make a silk cocoon. Isn't that amazing? and it's silver. It's a glorious silver color. I'm not entirely sure at this stage how to turn the light down, so I'm going to leave it like that for now. But if I was to turn the actual light down, it would be much more silver. So tiny, tiny, tiny. Now I'm going to pull this out now. If you have a look at it here, it's only about a centimetre and a half across, so less than an inch, and that means it's a very tiny little mantis, and I suspect quite strongly that it's adapted to living. It's probably very well camouflaged, and I suspected it's adapted to living on the slightly yellow flowers of Catanarigum spinosa, the spiny bone apple. So I'm going to put him back in the wild and hope that he manages to come out of that Uthika and enjoys a long and full summer, and hopefully Brent's predictions of 12% La Niña are incorrect. Right, so that's that little thing there. Then, very cleverly found by young Taylor McCurdy today, in fact a combined effort between Taylor and Geraldine. What we have here is a bulb, and I've often said to you, a bulb like this gives rise to something succulent, often something like a tall white squill. And here, everybody, is what the squill's flower looks like. Isn't that nice? Very nice, Eggsy. Not blurry safaris today, that's fantastic. Good news. Now let's have another little look under the microscope. It's such a joy to be able to look at things in this sort of detail. Oh, look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? So, you can see the individual parts of the plant now. What we have there, obviously the petals, I think those are called petals. It depends on their sort of structure, whether they're petals or sepals. Then, what you can see are the male and female parts of the flower. You've got the anthers, which are the yellow things there with the pollen on them. And then, at the top there, you've got, if I'm not mistaken, the stigma. And into that stigma, into that tube that you can see on the top of the flower, I'll just vary the focus slightly so you can, there you are. Ooh, too much. Not enough lubrication here. There. The middle bit there, that middle tube, is the stigma, and what will happen is that those little flower, not flowers, those little pieces of pollen, if you like, you can see one to the bottom and to the right, on the bottom right petal, that kind of little pollen grain will go into the tube, down, 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 into the ovum, which is that green bit underneath the tube, and that will create fertilization, which will in turn produce something resembling a fruit. I'm not sure what it looks like on a tall white squill. And eventually that will desiccate, fall to the ground, and become a great big tuber, like this. Isn't that a nice story, Eggsy?
That's beautiful.
Are you so amazed?
Yes, sir.
He's so amazed, everybody. Good. Ooh. Now, we can hear just beyond the tent here the shouting of elephants. So let's go and have a look at some with Brent Leo Smith.
So we're still with this beautiful little herd, but I'm starting to hear. Do you hear that, Brian?
I did.
So the ellies sound like they're fighting up near the water. I'm hoping Taxon gets out soon so we can go have a look. That was a weird one, that one. He's been listening to us saying La Niña, trying to copy us. And the little one, is he up now? Is he still snoozing? He's up. You can't see him, but he is up. Oh, there he is. So maybe they'll get moving towards the water shortly. They are looking a little bit more awake than they were earlier, so hopefully they are going to move towards the water. And it is fantastic to get there before they do, because they get that water walk, that swagger, that excitement. There's the little one's trunk. Playing in the background, practicing. Now, from one grey beast with glorious tusks to another beast with maybe not such glorious tusks.
They're not too bad. Yes, they might not be quite elephant standard, but I don't think those tusks are particularly negligible. Oh, itchy hock. We've got a pair of very, very muddy warthogs. And I can only imagine that they have spent their day, or the heat of the day, rolling around in the mud at
Oh, welcome back. Sorry, 1 second, I'm just on the radio. Tux, can I go in front of the lodge? Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to make my way now towards the waterhole from the Mawati River. And I think I can hear elephants screaming around there, so I think there might be ellies on their way to the water. Now remember, you are on a live African safari. It's a sweltering 98 degrees Fahrenheit, 37 degrees Celsius, and we aren't quite finished with winter yet. But we didn't really have too much of a proper winter this year. Now we're going to just drive out of the Mawati River. Now this is one of the little 2 tracks we use in and out of the river to give us access, but the elephants have had different ideas about our 2 tracks, and they've pushed lots of trees over them, so we sometimes have to meander around a bit longer than we used to, like we are doing right now, since there are elephant trees in the way. Yeah, they seem to have pushed down more since the last time I used this 2 track. We used to go through there. So there we go. That herd we were just with are on the move towards the water. So perfect timing. Let's get there before them. Oh, this could be fun. They're going to love the water. There's going to be splishing and splashing, some mud throwing. Maybe, Brian, it's quite hot. Maybe we'll position ourselves so we can get an elephant shower. The last elephant shower Brian and I had was actually a dust one, which wasn't nearly as pleasant as a water one. The mud one could be fun, but not for the camera. But while we try get into position or see what's happening with the eddies, let's see how James is in his little sauna.
It is getting a little saunerish, everybody, as the sun begins to make its inexorable way down towards the western horizon. Now, let's just have a look here. An old friend of ours, of course, the old elephant bone here. Now, I made many a mistake trying to figure out exactly which elephant bone this was. I'm still not entirely convinced that I know, but at the moment, I think that it is an elephant humerus. It is very large indeed. I'm not a large fellow, but this bone is at least as large as my trunk and head combined. So probably about, well, let's put it on the ground because it's too heavy for me, Eggsy. Well, it's probably about, well, 3'3", I'd say, 1 meter long. It weighs probably, I'd say it weighs a good 15 kilograms or so. That's one bone, of course. So an elephant, which weighs, I think this came from a big bull, weighs 6 tons. This is 15 kilograms, or about 35 pounds or so of his total mass. It has also, you can see here, being used very romantically. It does belong to James, at least to Brent Leo Smith and to Jamie Patterson. You can see they've used it as a candle holder. It is a very effective candle holder. They very kindly donated it to us for use in the sauna/tent. Then, the other thing I wanted to show you, got absolutely nothing to do with elephants at all, but I found this the other day. It is the steenbok, and I showed it to many of you on drive. There you are. And what I wanted to show you is how much of it is keratin. So that's what the skull part of the horns look like, and you can actually see where they grow from there. Can you see that, Eggsy? Oh, good. Eggsy can see that, so I hope all the rest of you can. And that's where it grows from, in the skull, and then this keratin sheath covers it on the top. And the keratin sheath is exactly what a rhino's horn is made of course, but the rhino horn doesn't have any bone inside it. It's plainly keratin like this, almost exclusively. And no matter what animal you look at out here, and it indicates, or what ruminant you look at out here, it indicates their common ancestry and closeness and relativeness. Relativeness, is that a word? Relativity, probably. Yes. Here is the keratin sheath on the top of an impala. There's a keratin sheath here on top of buffalo as well. So they're all rather closely related. This small steenbok to this enormous buffalo, but not very closely related, of course, to the elephants, which have now reached the water.
There we go. So it's the same little herd we've been spending the whole afternoon with, and they've now reached the water. There's the little guy who's fast asleep. Hi, Eddies. I'm just going to keep quiet so you can hear all the different sounds. Hi, big girl. You down, little one. This is incredible. They're right next to us. Just amazing. Oh, my head. I always find it amazing how different groups of elephants choose to drink in different places. I've decided this is a good spot. Often we find them drinking on the other side. Hi, Helen. Helen's in Melbourne, and Helen's wondering, why do female elephants also have tusks? Well, they're very useful for feeding, Helen, and they'll use them to pry bark off trees and... Sorry, I thought I saw something there. They use them to pry bark off trees, digging out roots, breaking branches. They're very, very useful tools, so it helps and aids them in feeding. Oh, you can hear how strong the wind is. Now what I'm going to try to do is just move back a little bit so we can get in front of them while they're drinking. It's always important to just let the car run for a few seconds. There we go. So relaxed. Oh, goodness, this is going to be... So Paul is wondering why they're passed up on the fresh water running out of the pipe. Well, it's not running at the moment, Paul. Look at that little guy. Yes, you little nonsense. And it's just what a hot day ordered. Elephants cavorting in the water. What are you up to? It's like it's a big game to get down. See how far I can reach with my trunk. That's my spot. Oh, here we go. The little one got a squirt whether he wanted to or not. Brian, behind there's an elephant chasing warthogs. Oh no, it just changed its mind, deciding water's more entertaining than a warthog, but it thought about chasing a warthog on its way down. But that doesn't look like it's from this herd. Now, if there are quite a lot of ellies around, as I said, I could hear them all over the place. Look at that. The female looks like she might chase it, that other elephant that arrived. What's going on there? Oh, happy after cooling down. Is that one going to chase a go-away bird? Thinking about it. Oh, go-away birds, I'm out of here before that guy sends his trunk anywhere near me. And this big female is literally coating her whole body in a layer of nice cool mud. And the little one's using her as a rubbing post. There we go, sufficiently coated. I think there's probably only a tiny gap that hasn't been. You know, the happiness in the step and the walk now. All cool. Oh, it's all good now. So, lots of nice screenshots. Great, guys. Remember, share them with us. Hashtag Safari Live, or on Twitter, or pop them on Facebook on the Safari Live page. Now, looks like they're going to spread out and feed. There's little trouble. Now, the temperature's probably dropped a degree or two. What do you think? Maybe a bit more. 4 or 5 degrees, and that's sort of what seemed to be the trigger for those animals to start moving. And they're not the only ones coming out of the thickets. I'm going to sit here a bit longer, see what's happening with these eddies. While we do that, let's go see what James is up to in the tent.
I'm so brave, everybody. Look how brave I am. I've got a spider on my face. Now, I know for many of you that would be the most terrifying thing in the world. For me it would too, actually, except that this baboon spider has popped its clogs, is no longer, is in fact is quite stiff as a board. You see that, Eggsy?
Yes.
Yes, very stiff. Now, what we're going to do is have a look at its fangs under the microscope, whence the white squill has been. I'm just going to get my seat, of course, so that I might sit down. Eggsy, I'm very old now. You know I'm going to be 40 this year, if you can believe it. I know it's astounding to imagine. Now, there we have the fangs of this spider. And what I would really like to do is kind of split them apart, but I'm not sure that I won't actually damage the spider quite badly. But isn't that amazing? Those are the fangs. It's two of them close together now, just very, very close together, and that's why it looks like it's one fang. So you can see they've got very long fangs to the baboon spiders. There, some of its eyes. I think those are its... No, they can't be. No, those are other sensory organs. I'll show you the eyes now. Let's turn them over. You know what, Eggsy? I've been talking absolute nonsense. Everyone, sorry. Let's try that again. Okay, back to microscope. There are the fangs. That makes much more sense. Good grief, that is absolutely horrific. I do apologize profusely, everyone. There you can see the fangs. The back thing there was just some sort of marking. But there are the fangs. One fang, two fangs. There are the pedipalps. Those are the sort of helping things. They're the things that push whatever this baboon spider, which is basically a tarantula, wants to eat, towards the fangs, and then those fangs dig into them. Now let's see if we can't perhaps lift the fangs slightly. Is that a sound effect you just made? No, we can't. You know, he's got severe rigor mortis, this fellow. She has got severe rigor mortis. We called her Barbara, I think. Barbara the baboon spider. And we don't know how she died, but the best guess we have is that she was killed by a spider-hunting wasp. Now, the spider-hunting wasp, of course, flies around, most noticeable, of course, by the amazing noise it makes. It goes vzzzz. It sounds like a sort of Spitfire flying overhead. And there on the back of the baboon spider, you can see the most unbelievably beautiful markings. Isn't that lovely? I think that's spectacular. Those golden copper hairs. Hello, you say you're not a fan of baboon and tarantula spiders. Oh, that's my finger, Eggsy. Look at that. You see, I'm a worker. That's why my finger looks like that, Eggsy, is because I work very hard. In fact, I think that was bits of giraffe skeleton it was. You see, now I'm clean. Liz, the thing with the baboon spider and a tarantula is that they're actually not very harmful to human beings. A baboon spider like this can probably give you a bit of a nip. Let's have a look at the leg there. Amazing colours, just gold and copper. Really beautifully sort of appropriate for this time of the year. They're not very, they can give you a bit of a nip, or probably feel a bit like a bee sting. There are one or two species, especially the sub sort of bark species, that can be a little bit nasty, but none of them are going to create any harm to you. There is, of course, sorry, coming back to us, I lost the spider there for a second, but Tarantulas, of course, there are two dangerous things. Yes, they can bite you. I don't think any tarantulas, even the South American ones, are likely to cause death straight away. But what they do have is they release those hairs. They release these tiny, fine hairs into the atmosphere, and if you breathe them in, you start coughing. They get stuck in your lungs, they get stuck in your throat, and people actually eat tarantulas. But the thing that they have to be very careful about in South America especially is sort of knocking those hairs off before they cook them over the open fire. And I'm not going to eat this one. Right, while we find you something else interesting to look at, let's head across to Jamie and find out what she has to tell you.
Well, we've made our way back from Arathusa. All is very quiet there, and as you may have gathered, as we kept disappearing off your screen, our signal wasn't, well, was playing up a little bit. It seems as though the gremlins, while we've been away from Arathusa, have decided to strike while we've been gone. And we've moved back onto the southern boundary, onto Gowrie Main, to see what we can see and to see whether or not there's any sign of the Queen of Djuma, Karula, deciding to come back from Little Gowrie. And I've just bumped into Ari, who says he's from Chitwa, and he says that she's still on Little Gowrie, but you never know. Leopards, generally unlike lions, will move about even on the hottest afternoons. I remember one afternoon, you horrible little creatures, don't run away. I couldn't get Rusty into reverse. And the warthogs have gone. It would have been so appropriate. No, they've disappeared. It would have been so appropriate because we disappeared while we were busy talking about warthog. Oh well. Never mind. Camera for some reason. I don't remember why, but it was one afternoon where we'd gone out late for the sunset safari because it was so hot that our cameras kept shutting down. It was somewhere in the region of about 45 degrees centigrade, so well over 100 Fahrenheit. And Tingano was just going for a walk. He was just wandering along down the road. He settled down eventually, but it just goes to show that leopards can be moving around and about at absolutely any time of the day and at any temperature, even if it is boiling hot. Now, there's a good chance that Karula might decide to return to the northern parts of her territory and back onto Djuma. I'm also looking for a giraffe for this afternoon sunset safari. I want to go and look at them with new and opened eyes after of course I know we've discussed it at length, the new study that's determined that there are 4 different species. What was fascinating about that study, of course, and I'm not sure how much detail Brent went into, those of you who've read the study will know this, but typically when they're doing sort of genetic analysis on the different animals, they often look at the mitochondrial DNA, so the sort of energy producing organelles of a cell. And in this case they went one step deeper, which is really where it becomes exceptionally fascinating. And I always loved genetics when I was at school, and studying the intricacies of the way that different phenotypes and genotypes are passed on through individuals. But in this case they actually really went deep into the examination of the proper DNA, the nucleus DNA of the different giraffe species. And it looks as though they've been distinct species for a very, very long time. In some cases millions of years since there was any kind of interbreeding between the different species. So absolutely fascinating study. Okie dokie. Well, it seems as though we've got the odd gremlin or two playing games with us. As you know, we're getting everything sorted out. We're trying to sort of combination of the tent and bushwalk and our vehicles. So please stick with us. What we're going to do is we're going to go to Tech Loop for a brief period of time. We're going to do some rebooting of our system, and then we should be back and running with you very shortly. So please don't go anywhere. Stay glued to your seats. You know, those of you who are regular viewers, how exciting things can get. You never know what's around the next corner and all of that jazz. So we're going to go to Tech Loop for now, and we'll catch up with you shortly.
So unfortunately we experienced some tech difficulties. That's one of the things about being live and in the bush, but our tech crew is on it and not asleep like the lions behind me. Hopefully we'll be back with you shortly.
Well, there you go. You see, we told you we'd only be gone for... Don't run, don't run, don't run, don't run, don't run. Don't run. It's okay. It's okay. There we go. Finally, we managed to get a warthog on your screen and hope... Screen, not scream, screen. And hopefully we don't go black screen this time around. His little nose. Twitching, trying to work out what we're up to and if it's worth running or if it's worth just slowly moving off. This female's also been rolling in mud. Not sure where. There's definitely none in this particular spot. I think she's gonna come out across the road, yeah. Trot, 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 trot. And you can see the dark line across her belly. She must have found somewhere in Chitwa to settle and enjoy a little bit of mud. You can see she's not truly agitated, she's just moving across the open bit as quickly as possible before she calms down again. But if she were actually properly running away, then her tail would have been straight up in the air. The first sign of an agitated warthog. And if your guide ever tells you that it's because their skin is too tight and that's why they have to lift their tails up, the idea was, there's a sort of it's not an old wives' tale, but we need something similar. It's meant to be a guide's trick for gullible guests. That a warthog's skin is so tight that they can either have their tails down and their eyes open, or they have their tails up and their eyes closed, so that they can run through grass and not get the seeds in their eyes. If your guide ever tells you that while you are on holiday, I think perhaps you should confront them and tell them that you know that that is not true and that you are not a gullible tourist because you've been watching Safari Live. This warthog is making my life difficult now. Let me go forward a little bit, sorry, Vian. She's snuffling on the ground there. There she is. Got a little bit of a gap. Here we go. On her haunches, well actually on her wrists would be that equivalent. And they actually, it's just like your wrists, that's the direction that they bend in. And if you look closely, you will see a tree. Never mind, I was going to tell you about the little dew claws that stick out at the back, and you can occasionally see in a warthog track. She's not having any of it. As she slowly disappears off into the distance, I believe that James would very much like to show you something interesting, and perhaps you can have a closer look at the anatomy of these fascinating creatures.
Do you think that's right, Eggsy?
Yeah. Perfect. Yep.
There we go. Everybody, a warthog skull. As you can see, this one had a tooth growing out of its eye socket, and well, that's very unusual, of course. It's also ridiculous. It didn't really have one growing out of its eye socket, everybody. It was coming out of one of these great holes here. Now, what's interesting, of course, is that this is a standard issue canine tooth. Well, it's not a standard issue canine tooth at all. That's more accurate. It's an enlarged canine tooth, and if you are perhaps a young viewer, or perhaps you're an older viewer who's forgotten your 6th grade biology, the canine tooth is the tooth that would be the longest on your dog or your cat. So if you're wondering what it is, grab your cat or dog, lift their top lip and find the longest tooth. That's a canine. Don't get bitten, of course, and if you do get bitten, please don't tell me about it. I don't wish to be sued for advising it. It is also, of course, the long tooth on a vampire. So those of you who have a vampire close at hand, pull them across, lift their top lip, and also don't get bitten. But what's interesting here in the warthog's case is that the skull is modified to grow with the tooth. So in the same way that your jaw, your top jaw, your teeth erupt from the jaw, this warthog's skull is adapted to move slightly outwards and encourage the growth of the canine tooth in this astoundingly curved example. And this is pretty, I mean, this is a pretty good sized tusk really for a warthog, quite possibly from in fact almost certainly from a male warthog. And the last thing I want to show you here is the one piece of clean tusk. You see that, Eggsy?
Yes.
You see how clean it is?
Very clean.
And do you know why things get clean, Eggsy?
Because they brush
Because
brush it.
Because you rub them, yeah, that's correct. Not quite brush them, but rub them. And these ones rush or rub against the bottom canines, which become extremely sharp. And that occlusion there is what sharpens the bottom tusk. Now, we have a great honor, everybody, out today on foot again, without a frozen picture, the great Stefan, the Mystic Boer. Go and take a look.
Thank you very much for that, James. And I have to thank all of you just for bearing with us for that reboot of the system, which has allowed us to actually host a bushwalk today. So I just want to say hello and you're welcome from myself, Stefan Winterboer, and from David, who's on camera today. And his hands are busy, so he can't show you anything. We're heading out now a little bit late, but we are going to be heading out towards the other side of quarantine. And did I see a leg there, or is it just my imagination? Was it a... Anyway, let's go over there, and it looked like something giraffe-like in the distance. Let's go and have a look. Just looked like, caught the corner of my eye at least anyway. So we're going to go and look for a nice place to have a sunset. Today, the sunrise, or this morning, the sunrise was absolutely fantastic. This big red ball in the sky. And it sort of heralded a bit of a change in the weather. I know from Graham and Emily that in KwaZulu-Natal, which is the province which lies just adjacent to where we are, we're in the Mpumalanga province of South Africa. They were in the KwaZulu-Natal province, which lies just to the south and just to the south of us actually. And it's raining, pouring in actual fact. So that red ball in the sky, that shepherd's warning that we talked about this morning, and this wind that has just popped up out of the middle of nowhere definitely heralds something coming along. We've all been so busy that no one's checked the weather reports, and anyway, it was one of those afternoons, careful there Dave, you're going to get treed. And it's been one of those afternoons that sort of built up and built up. I'm sure Jamie or Brent has already told you it was like 98 degrees Fahrenheit when we left this afternoon, which is blistering. Lucky for me, I spent most of the afternoon in an air-conditioned office, which was quite nice. All right, we've now gotten to the place where I thought I saw the leg, and it is nothing, which is not surprising. I tend to see these things out here all the time, so not too much of a worry. But in any case, it is a nice afternoon. It has cooled down somewhat from what it was in the last hour or so, and it's actually quite pleasant. To give you an example of what it is, yeah. So Linz, you've asked for some lizards. So first I just want to say hello, and yes, we can try and find you some lizards again. Yesterday we found a skink, a variable skink. So I think the best place would be to just head to the nearest wood pile and see what's hunting underneath the leaf litter. Now obviously the one that is most obvious is this one that's lying on its side right here. But I don't think I'm going to go there. I think I'm going to go into these wood piles here on the right. The reason for that is that there are a lot of these Burchell starlings and a resident pair of the lilac-breasted roller that live here, and a little lizard scurrying across this open area here would be a very tasty morsel for them. So let's stick our noses into some of these wood piles for you, Lynn, and hopefully we'd be able to find you something here. So the first thing that I'm very much like an insect or a spider or even a snake, I react to movement. And that is what I'm looking for at the moment. As I'm moving through the bush like this, we're spooking things as we're walking. And as I'm spooking it, they're moving. Something that I catch with my eye and can show you. I've only been attacked by a monstrous fly as that came out of the bush there. That was about the only thing that attacked me there. So looking on these branches, nothing much here. You can see that this is a very, very thorny tree. But while we look for your lizard, Lynn, I think a good idea would be to go and send you off to James in his tent with all those exciting things.
Right, we're in the tent still obviously, but what we want to show you is what's going on at the dam cam. There are some elephants over there, and we'll switch across to that feed. There we are, a small herd of elephants feeding in what is, I think this is a great vantage point, because what it shows you, of course, is the dryness. Virtual starting there, flying through the bottom of your screen. You see that, Eggsy?
Yes.
Well done. Now, all you can see is very slight bits of green, and that green is almost exclusively guarebush or Euchelia divinorum, and of course Brent started off telling you that nothing likes to eat that stuff, and he's absolutely correct. Of course, the giraffe being forced to eat it. That greenery in the top right hand side of your corner of your, let me go again with that. That greenery on the top, what was on the top right hand side of your screen, was a jackalberry tree, and that elephant there now in amongst the guarri bushes, but you can see very much trying to avoid them, trying to get at the last shoots underneath the fallen knobthorn. And the skeletons of trees all around there that you can see. Now the Zoomy, of course, is in control of the camera, doing a very sterling job indeed, and the wobbling, of course, brought about by this wind blowing in strangely from the northeast. And I must just corroborate what Brent Leo Smith was saying about La Niña. I have just done some research because I hadn't heard what he had heard, and it would indicate that La Niña is likely to be a very weak one this year if we're going to have it at all. So that's quite interesting. So far from the predictions of deluge that have been, well, sort of bandied about the place here, it would seem that we'll probably have a pretty average rainfall year. That's absolutely fine. We'd be very happy to have that indeed. On that note, let's head across to Brent. Wait a second. He's got a road.
I am indeed on a road, but this is where the lions crossed out of our traverse area this morning. But there were no cub tracks, and so they found them adults sleeping there. So I'm going to go have a quick look around a Buffelshoek waterhole. Maybe we'll find some little lion cubs. Well, Buffelshoek waterhole is,
Hang on. Right, we're live, we're echoing, it's like a sports cast in here. Okay. This is what I'm going to show you. Here we are. Here. We weren't quite ready for that, everybody. We were trying to capture an insect outside when suddenly we went live. This is from a buffalo's foreleg. And what's interesting here is that the buffalo's foreleg, of course, is much the same as your forearm. Well, a bit like mine, really. There we are. Okay. And this is the humerus. So that would be the equivalent here of where your bicep sits. So the bicep would be on top there and the tricep at the back. And then, as we turn around, this is the elbow joint. And this piece of sort of, well, it's bone, it's a bony spur, is actually the elbow. And who knew that a buffalo had an elbow? And that's what that is. Now, you know that if you feel on your forearm, so just go to your forearm, not you, Eggsy, you're on camera, and just feel along there, and you can feel that there are two bones there. One of them is called the radius, and one of them is called the ulna, and I remember which is which by remembering the, if I'm not mistaken, the ulna is the smaller one, and it goes towards your smaller finger, so it's on the outside, and the radius is on the inside and goes towards your big thumb. That's how I remember it anyway. So here, you can see that this buffalo has got both as well. Radius and ulna, and I'm not actually sure which is which, but you can see they're semi-fused. There's the gap there. Radius and ulna, almost fused into one. Okay, now if we go over here, Egbert, from an entirely different animal. Oh, I don't think that we should spend any longer with me fosking around with these diseased bones. Much rather let us go to the lions of the Nkuhuma.
So before we were rudely interrupted by the heat, I said I didn't see any cub tracks crossing, so I was going to come look for the cubs. Brian just went, lion! And there they are. It looks like one of the lionesses has come back. I can count 1, 2, 3. Oh, look at that, so cute. It's amazing. Lion cubs make us mushy, mushy, mushy creatures. Especially these little Nkuhumas. But let's get a bit closer. So I did see one adult lioness there as well. Hey guys, I haven't seen you in about 10 days or so. So lovely. Now, of course, couldn't find them this morning, but it doesn't matter because we found them tonight. Oh, and the light is about to get quite spectacular. So I have heard that there are some missing cubs. So fingers crossed that there are more than 6 today. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think 6. Yes, there were 2 missing, but we've got 6 here. So unfortunately it seems like 2 are still missing. Oh, hello guys. Beautiful light, beautiful lions. We do love ourselves the Nkuhumas. So that couple of degrees it's dropped in the last while has obviously prompted a bit of movement. So it looks like the rest of the pride are not here yet. So it's just 1 female and the cubs. You can see she's still quite hot. She's panting heavily. I think she must have arrived in the last 5 or 6 minutes or so. So I think our timing was impeccable. Being clever like the animals, sitting in the shade with the elephants for an hour or 2, and then just, wander around. Time for the predators to get moving. I wonder if any of the other lionesses might come join. So I know a lot of you are still quite upset that there are only 6 cubs, but that is life out here in the bush. It's not to say that those other 2 might not appear. I must say that the longer it goes, the more unlikely it is though. Ooh. Now they're trying to sneak in. Oh, she's hot, she's hungry. So it looks like they didn't have a successful hunt last night. There's the youngest cub, two of the youngest cubs. So if you're hearing that click click, it's me taking a picture, and I suggest you do the same. Get some screenshots of these beautiful little lion cubs. They're going to come right in front of us. You can see they don't really mind us at all. Let's see what happens. Hello, little ones. That's sweet. Now, Chi-Town Connie is wondering, is there any chance the missing cubs might return? There is always a chance, and I'd love to be proved wrong, but the longer we don't see those little guys for, the less likely an imminent return is. It's dangerous out here in the bush. There's hyenas, and of course other lions, snakes, eagles might even take a small cub. Comes the last one. Now she's about, I think she might head towards the Djuma waterhole, to be honest. The lioness is moving into the bush, opposite direction to where the rest of the pride are. Might be taking the cubs for a drink. Careful, madam, lots of ellies around there. There's that wonderful noise. Ow! Following her through the bush. We're going to do the same. We're going to try and keep up with them. And the last two are about to pair in the bottom left of screen. There we go. Magic, I'm so excited we found them. Great spotting, Brian. Okay, we're going to keep up with them, and while we move, we're going to go see how Jamie's doing.
While Brent keeps up with the little lion cubs, and it is marvelous news that he managed to find them, although I have to say I'm a little bit sad to hear that it is still only 6 of the little ones. So obviously the missing 2 have not yet been found by the adults. In the meantime, we started off our sunset safari talking about a herd of buffalo. I'm actually going to stop here. Where are these buffalo? They can't be that quiet. Apparently they've just crossed Voyatella Bain access over the last while we were in Arathusa. I'm trying to figure out exactly where they are, so while the search for the buffalo continues, let's go across to James, who's having a look at the Djuma Dam and an elephant.
Look at this, everybody, at the dam cam, a wonderful sight. Hello? Have you got our audio? Back to the dam cam. Have you got me now, Kirsten? There we are. Right, So what we had there, I don't know if you managed to see it, the tiny little one there, the youngest member of the half-trunk herd, that's our favourite elephant herd here, was having a whale of a time swimming in the water there. Elephants love to swim, but of course this little pan, look at him, this little pan, much too, oh, he's going to have another swim. This pan is too small for the others excuse me, to swim in. You might find that they'd lie down in it for a little while, but at the moment they're just having a bit of a drink while the little one, exactly as a little child might, is swimming around there. Now also on the far left hand side of your picture you will see Ronald the rover. Ronald is not working at the moment. He was working until earlier and he has ceased to work, we think, on account of the heat, but because of the elephants there we're not going to go down there and do anything about him until later. Look at this little thing having a swim. Zumi, you are completely on fire here, moving entirely in time with my voice, and what you'll find is a great deal of affection there from the rest of the herd. They enjoy the sort of playfulness of these youngsters, and in much the same way that we enjoy the playfulness of human being babies. Look at it, it's having the best time ever. Cooling down, mud, water, something to drink, mum's close by, so's my big brother. And there's mum just looking at something. She spotted something. See, she's opened her ears out, standing between whatever it is and the elephant herd. I wonder if there aren't some impala to the left-hand side, Mr. Zumi. Or is there something on the left-hand side there, maybe? See her looking like that. And elephants way in the distance. Hello, Ellen in Arkansas. You're wondering, we've just seen that little elephant swimming. I wonder if they're not a little bit alarmed by Ronald there. I think they are. You want to know if it's born during a drought, how quickly will an elephant adapt to swimming? Well, I think very quickly indeed. You know, I mean, that elephant is probably a year old or so. And while it's been born during some pretty dry times, it's certainly seen water in Buffelshoek Dam, so enough for it to have swum in. It's seen water here. It would have seen water probably in Arathusa Dam. I think they've been in both dams, this half-trunk herd, and all of the dams in Buffelshoek. So, although it's a drought, it has seen water before. And also, I think, you know, unlike human beings, which have to be taught for seemingly appalling amount of time how to swim, young elephants and young dogs, anybody who's owned a dog before knows, you put them in water and they just know how to swim, and I think it's very much the same for that elephant. Blacksmith plover on the right there, well, no, back to the elephant there, having a wonderful swim. Look at that. It's not even deep enough for him. Hello, David, you're in the UK and you're our Zumi. I think you're doing an absolutely spectacular job, so thank you very much for your dedication and for the skill with which you're operating that camera at the moment. Mercifully not me doing it. I'm hopeless at it. Just can't get out. You can see he feels like maybe he should get out. Perhaps Mum said that's enough, but he's not getting out. Yeah, Mum is reacting to some impala, and I think also the smell of that rover. I think she's unfamiliar with it. And so it's quite a good thing that it's not moving. It's quite a good thing that it's just sitting there and they can get used to it as a totally harmless part of the environment. But see how they've formed a protective ring around the little one as it obliviously swims in the water there. I think that is just too sweet. And I've no doubt that Mum would love to have a swim too, but it's just a bit shallow in here for her. There's the slightly younger one tossing mud on top of his body, drinking a little bit, and the little one, how they don't get stood on, I just don't understand. I find it so amazing. Look at that, it's absolutely ridiculous. Enjoying the feeling of the mud and the scrape of the rocks. And now the older one's getting in on the act. Someone's going to try and push this one into the water, just like two kids would. They're two young bulls. That is wonderful. And the one on the far side there, I think the one on the far side is actually part of this herd. And I don't think that the closest one to us, the young bull closest to us, is actually. I think he may have joined from that other herd. That was the other side of the dam there. It's interesting because there are 5 of them now. You see, normally just the 4. And I thought it was her, the half-trunk cow, young matriarch. And I thought the one at the far side there, who I think is a cow. And then this other youngster who was about to be tossed into the water. Does everyone agree with me there, or am I wrong? Yeah, I think that's right. Look at that little one, it's too excited. It's too excited by the cool. It can feel the cool of the day starting to come now. It's not quite so hot. It knows it's going to go into a cooler time, enjoying the swim, the safety of mum. A gorgeous light, lots to drink, and of course an elephant like that, just as the same as a child of the same sort of age. No idea about the stresses and strains of trying to find enough to eat. Look at that other... Paul, you say the half-trunk daughter has taken out the nest cam and it might take out the rover next. I couldn't agree with you more. The nest cam, not to put too fine a point on it, seems to have... well, come apart somewhat. And the daughter, oh, there we go, bigger one's now in. Bigger one now in the water. Couldn't deal with not having a swim. This is fantastic. I haven't seen elephants swimming for goodness knows how long. And now they've obviously decided that there's enough water for them to have a bit of a swim in. And look, it's almost like the half-trunk cow is slightly too nervous to come in. Almost like she's saying, why are you playing there? And apparently there is a hippo in the top left corner, looking morosely on as his last remaining piece of habitat is monopolized by these 5 glorious elephants. On the far right of your screen, look at that thing scratching himself on the logs there. All of them lying down on the cool mud to cool their bellies. And look at the half-trunk cow splashing the one in the water there. Look at that. And with her ears out in a very unthreatening way. You see how her ears are out, or they have been out, but her head isn't lifted. So she's obviously communicating in some way with the little one in the water. And there is the, well, that's a Transvaal saffron bush, but there's the hippo, looking very morose indeed, thinking about making his way here. They look so ungainly, and they look so miserable at this time of the year. What a wonderful, wonderful sighting that has been to sit here and observe. Let's head back to Buffelshoek Dam and the little cubs.
So she's moved a little bit, and she's laid down again now, and quite a bit of growling at the cubs. So I think she doesn't have that much milk. She's quite hungry. Oh, tired kitties. Trying to see if we can find a better spot. It is a bit of a difficult area. Let's see what happens. Just to the right, Brian. Look at that little one on his back.
Yeah, better the action here.
There you go. Oh, there he is. He's flopped down now, but he was rolling around. Now, lions will often lie with their belly exposed like that, so the white helps them to cool down. Okay, while stuff calms down here, let's go back to Steph, who's on foot with a little ho-ho.
I am with the little assassin bug. Have a look at this beautiful specimen here. So I know he's an assassin bug because of his long streamlined shape, the way that he's holding his front antennae. These are these two leg-like arms here in front. And also, if you have a look underneath his head, you will notice a black, almost recurved dagger. Now that is his proboscis, and this assassin bug waits and walks around, looking and imitating a stick, waiting until an insect triggers a strike by touching one of these two antennae. They then lunge forward and extend that black pipe that you see under his head. It comes out like a switchblade, basically unfurling, so going from this to opening up and stabbing down into an insect, usually at the back of the head or just into the thorax, and then they, using the same weapon, they suck out all the juices. Can you imagine anything more terrifying than that? This branch coming alive next to you, it'll be the same as this tree we're going to have a look at in a moment, coming alive next to you, grabbing you by the body and then sticking a drain pipe in the back of your skull and sucking you out. Not the nicest thing. Assassin bugs. Isn't that the coolest little guy? And he's tiny. No bigger than my finger. Front end of my finger. Isn't that just the best thing? But we have got another surprise here for you as well. And that is the long-awaited relief guide. So when Herbert goes on leave, we have Rexon Intimani who comes and helps out. Rexon is the newest game ranger, the newest guide for Djuma Private Game Reserve. And many of you will be going, but you recognize him, and it's exactly because Rexon used to guide for us for WildEarth many, many years ago. How many years ago now, Rexon?
About 6-7 years back.
6 or 7 years ago was when he's left. He's been looking after his family since then. You're going to be seeing a lot more of Rexon, not only on Djuma's game vehicles when Aubrey and Taxon go on leave, but also with us on the walk, keeping us nice and safe for when Herbert goes on leave as well. So welcome. Nice to have you aboard, man.
Yeah, lovely.
All right. Rexon's been keeping us safe for a few days now. I must be honest with you, we've been a bit naughty and not letting you know, but we thought we'd keep it for a surprise today, and I'm very glad that we got to do that. And on that note, so while we walk around and find something else amazing, let's cross over to James in his tent.
Right, I would now like to take the largest photograph in history, everyone. So if you could all smile on the count of 3. Look at my finger. You got it? 1, 2, 3. You all look wonderful. Well done. Now, we're going to the dam camera. Very nice. There we have the hippopotamus. I don't know why he got out. Well, I do know why he got out, actually, because he got out because, Connor and Alex and I went down to try and put the rover down, so he left. And then while he was gone, he was sort of usurped, if you like, by elephants. Here he comes. Oh, isn't he amazing? So ponderous and slow. They look like they're from another world to me, hippos. Look at the strange feet, soft 4 toes, enormous muzzle. And they look like they could not move. Oh, he's having a drink too, he's so thirsty. They look like they couldn't move faster than you and I could possibly crawl, but they are not slow. And he also looks like, with that great big mouth of his, he could probably drink most of this pan in 4 or 5 gulps. I think this is just wonderful. Now, if you look carefully, you will just see the odd head bopping up above the surface of the water. That is a terrapin, a serrated hinged terrapin. There on the right hand side of your screen you can see one popping up. It's gone back down now. Oh, this is wonderful. And now he's going to lie down, and you can almost feel the weight disappearing off his little legs, and he's just taking a load off and breathing easy. I think that's so cool. Alright, I don't think he's going to do a whole lot over there. Over there, Eggsy, you can see the sun is beginning its descent over the western horizon. While it does that, let's head across to Jamie Patterson and find out what she has to update you about.
I'm afraid to say I don't have much in the way of updates. It's just that the buffalo herd has been managing to avoid me this entire time. Aha! We've got some tracks on the road of these buffalo. Now the question is, which direction have they gone in? I'm really hoping that we get to see them all make their way towards Sydney's Dam. And they go and have a drink as the afternoon starts to get a little bit cooler. They're wandering along slowly but surely, crossing. We've got two options. They could go to One-Eyed Pan on Simbambili, which obviously we can't go that... Oh, I think that decision is relatively clear. Sorry, we'll have a look at this. They all decided to cross here. Just in case you were ever wondering how game paths were made. You can see relatively smooth road on either side, or at least ahead of where we're stopping, and then a whole load of buffalo tracks moving to the north, right straight towards Sydney's Dam. Lots and lots of them. Okay, so that's where the main group crossed. And I'm not going to jump out to show you too clearly, just because I want to try and catch them as the sun starts to go down and before they disappear into Buffelshoek. Hopefully we should encounter them somewhere here on Sandy Patch. Now, we've already paid one quick visit to Sydney's Dam, and there were a couple of elephants that went dashing away over the dam wall. While I catch up with our buffalo, let's go across and look at one of the other magical tiny things with Steph.
Have a look at this spider that's made her web in the footprint of an impala that is inside some elephant dung. And you can see this little spider. I'm not exactly sure what spider this is. I think it's a type of wolf spider. However, it is beyond me at this point to tell you what spider this is, but they are quite common out here. They almost always build their webs across a depression, and from the depression they build a little tunnel, and she's sitting at the entrance to a tunnel. But this is giving us a very good look at what these spiders look like, because usually they're very vigilant, and as soon as you come close to them they dart back into their tunnels and you can't actually see them. So this is actually giving me a beautiful chance of, or a good chance of seeing her. They've got quite a raised abdomen. That I have noticed on these spiders before. I don't quite know what they hunt. I have, as a youngster, thrown crickets into these webs thinking that they would rush out and grab the cricket, but they don't. So they hunt something else. And I'm still not sure exactly what it is. I've never found the discarded remnants of any of her prey species, but you can see there on her head, she's got this raised sort of serrato, her cephalothorax, the piece that's just where her eyes and her head are, is raised slightly. I don't know if Dave can see it. Let's get a better view. Let me get out of the way so that you can get a better view of her face. Have a look at that. She's got lovely colors on her, stripy legs. Okay, I'm just going to point her out quickly. Let me see. So in front of the leaf, against the background there. So there we go. It's a bit shaky. She is tiny, this spider. But there you go. Beautiful. Well done, Dave. And there, for those of you who like the spiders along with me, definitely the web is a giveaway. A flat web on the ground over a depression with a tunnel on the one side. That is exactly what the giveaway to this little spider is. And now what's equally amazing is that she's moved into this particular home after an impala has walked across an elephant dung, leaving an impression there, or a depression there. But have a look at this elephant dung. This elephant dung is almost completely used up. This is what happens after a few weeks of drought and termites and wind. This is what's left of a piece of elephant dung. It's just the sticks, really. All the fibrous material has been used up, And isn't this just a wonderful way of looking at the way termites bring fresh, nutritious ground above the soil and take all the nutrients to feed the poor soil back down with them? But anyway, on that note, back to Jamie with those buffalo.
We have just finally caught up with the tail end of the herd, and unfortunately they're playing hard to get still in some very dense vegetation. You'll be able to just... Wait, let me go forward a little bit. You'll be able to just see that one cow through the gap, and they are definitely on their way towards Sydney's dam. Go and have a late afternoon drink. I can only see 6 here, and there are definitely tracks of more. So they're probably on their way. Ouch, mosquito. This might just be the straggling group, but they're definitely on their way towards Sydney's dam. Which for us means as long as we play the patience game relatively well, we have a good chance of seeing one of those truly iconic scenes. African buffalo herd in the dust as the sun starts to go down. That's what I'm anticipating, at least. For now, though, they are in some very, very dense vegetation. It's the block between Sandy Patch and WildEarth main access. It's one of Shadow's favourite places, just by the way. We haven't seen Shadow in a little while, not since she was mating with Tingana. Right, this is what's been fluttering, try and keep it still, fluttering around our faces and our eyes over the last few hours. This is a little Mapani bee. Yes, oh wait, there he goes. Yeah, little Mapani bee. Awesome, how cool is that? And they're after the moisture in our sweat and in our tear ducts and around our eyes, which is why they like to be in our eyes and our ears. And they make the most sublime honey. Apparently it is some of the best honey in the world. I have never tasted it before. Here you go. Oh. Now trying to duck underneath, but even tried there underneath my fingernail to see whether it could find any moisture. Okay, while I attempt to escape the fluttering Mapani bees, goodbye. Let's go back to James and see what's happening at WildEarth Dam.
Wonderful stuff, that. I'm just eating a bit of a snack here. Delicious termite mound. That is the same kind of bee, of course, that's living in the giraffe skull. Now, as I've told many of you before, I know people who eat this termite mound as a delicacy. I think it's pretty much inedible, to be honest. Let's go and have a look at the dam cam. There we go. Now, we've got a lot of elephants there. Excuse me. And what they're doing is harassing this hippopotamus. And one of them, the biggest one on the left-hand side, was the other side of the dam, and he was flinging water at the hippo, and the hippo got up and looked like it might come out, but you can see them communicating with the hippo, not in a language I suppose he understands, but in the same way that if you say to somebody, if you're a South African, for example, and you go to Brazil and you say "futsek" to them, they will know exactly what you mean. It means go away. And those elephants are saying the equivalent of "futsek" to that hippopotamus, and he is not budging. He says, "I've been out for long enough. You lot go away and leave me alone. I've had a hot day. I've had nothing to eat. I've had nothing to drink, and I've been burning in a hot sun. So you leave me alone." And that's what he said to them verbatim. There, in between the elephants now, you can see the nest cam. The nest cam, well, perilously close to destruction at this stage. The power has been pulled out already, and I'm sure Connor and Alex are watching this with a sense of great dread. And this scene, this kind of scene that's playing out here at the dam cam, I think you're going to find continues pretty much for the rest of the dry season, and I think there's going to be tremendous action as long as this pan remains pumped. Oh, look at the little thing there having a snooze on the ground. That's So sweet. Now, I mean, I must say, the skill of the Zoomy here is impressive because he doesn't have a big picture view of this. He's got exactly the same view of this that we have. There is Ronald. Ronald! Get moving! Useless individual. He won't move, you see. He's recalcitrantly stuck there in the mud, possibly afraid of all the antelope around him. The impala are coming in to have a drink. There are doves coming in to have a drink. There's all sorts of things coming in to have a drink. Let's go back to Brent and those little golden tawny bundles of joy.
So Mama took us on quite the goose chase through the block, but we managed to keep up with her. And she's now come back out into the road.
No, try it.
Everyone's
You can eat
stopped for a little bit.
We still have my audio, everybody. Should we sing a song, Jerry? Come and have something to eat, Taylor. It's delicious.
Let's move a little bit closer. I was worried they were going to keep moving, so I just kept my distance in case we had to keep moving again.
The elephants are having a bit of a dust bath now. Don't know what can be heard, what cannot be heard at this stage. Let's see, can you mute us?
There we go. Magic. Complaining. Mom, I'm thirsty, I'm hungry. Hi Monique, who's in London. Now Monique says, is it common to have one lioness looking after all the cubs? It is, because remember they're allo suckle, so they're allo care as well. So all female members of the pride will take care of cubs at some point, and if they are suckling, then they will allow the other females' cubs to suckle as well. Now, she's quite hungry, so she probably isn't producing that much milk. So that's why she keeps getting up and moving. So once the cubs have suckled for a little bit, she gets a bit irritated, probably gets a bit painful as well, as they try to knead her nipples to try to produce more milk, or they start biting a bit hard. And that often causes her to get up and walk, which is what's been happening throughout, since we've actually found them. Ooh, excuse me. Lots of dust in the air at the moment. The one's lying quite close to us. One of the slightly older cubs snoozing. The others all getting stuck in to that lioness. Now, lion cubs are weaned at about 6 months old. That's when their mothers will stop producing milk. But it isn't unusual for a lion cub to suckle older than 6 months if there's another lactating lioness in the pride. So, well, we sit with these incredible inkahumas. Jamie's got an animal that probably, or actually not probably, really doesn't want to bump into inkahumas when they're hungry.
I think that is absolutely the case with this herd of buffalo that have finally decided to emerge out into the open. Now, one thing we're going to do as they make their way towards us is if they start to move in front of the vehicle, we're going to do a VR segment. So I'm going to be talking to you, but essentially I'm going to be talking to the VR as well. And here we go. Everybody ready? We ready, Viam? Cool. I don't want to clap and scare the buffalo. Right, so here we are on a hot afternoon here in the African bush, and we've got a whole herd of buffalo approaching us off to the right of us, making their way towards one of the remaining water holes. And as you can see, if you have a look around, they're going to come around through across the front of the vehicle, so keep your eye out as well. But as they make their way, just have a look around you and you'll see that there's absolutely no grass in this vicinity, and that's because we're currently in a very, very serious drought here in South Africa. And buffalo herds like the one that we're seeing here don't usually stop and feed on trees. But if you watch them as they move through, there's a very good chance that they're going to be eating the trees that are here as well. Here they come, streaming in front of us. There must be about 30, 40 odd buffalo, so quite a small herd. There's a big old cow right in front of us, and here they come. The sound of the buffalo as they move through, it's not a quiet thing. A buffalo herd, we can just hear their feet trudging across the road and across the soil as they make their way towards the dam. A couple of little ones in there you might have spotted, but mostly adult females, just like the one that's walking at the back of the group. And they're still looking in really good condition. They're going to make their way straight across towards the waterhole, and they're all going to gather there for a drink. Beautiful time of evening. It's been very, very hot this afternoon. It's been 37 degrees. They've had a hot afternoon, and now as it starts to get a little bit cooler, as the sun starts to go down, they're going to move through and have a drink and quench their thirst. Another gorgeous afternoon here in Africa. Okay, so that clap there at the end was to sync up the VR, all of the different GoPros, because obviously we have to combine them while our buffalo move through and across towards the dam. Let's go across to Bushwalk. We've got a beautiful view of what I imagine is going to be a stunning sunset.
It is indeed a very stunning sunset. Have a look at that. Just the sun disappearing slowly behind the thicket of terminalias in the distance. Not quite as red as this morning, nonetheless, this golden yellow ball through the trees there. It's not often that we show you a sunset through the trees like this. Quite often we've got a more open view. We are standing on the edge of what we call a vlei in Afrikaans, or a seepline in English. And those terminalias along the back there are just ringing the edge of this just beautiful area. Sun setting, doves cooing. We've had a few of these green pigeons racing past us as we've been standing over here, or going to the tall trees on quarantine open area to spend the night there, and we're still walking into the sunset. It's going to be a fantastic afternoon. Temperature has cooled down a lot now. It's a much more comfortable day now than it was when we set out a little bit earlier on. I must be honest with you, it was baking hot this afternoon, but we've managed to weather it and are out here still, and it's a good afternoon. All right, but without further ado, I'm going to say goodbye for now and send you over to Brent with those lines.
I'm following them. I think you must get to the dam wall and then just turn left and you'll be able to.
So I've just heard the rest of the pride apparently are moving south. They're still quite a way away, but who knows, maybe in the next half an hour the other 4 lionesses and the big male will join them. Swat. Swatted by a tail. Look at those little eyes. Okay. Oh, she's up. Yeah, I don't think she's on the move. Now, I know a lot of you are wondering about the missing cubs. As we've said, it is normal. That is what happens in the African bush. If all the lion cubs survived, it'd be really tough for all the buffaloes and impalas. So, it's about a 70% mortality rate that lion cubs face in this part of the world. And there's always a chance that those cubs might be found, they might be fine. And the longest I've seen cubs lost from a pride for is about a week and a half. They were skinny, but they were okay. But as I say, the longer we don't see them, the less likely they are to survive. But who knows, maybe Brian's thumb magic will work today and we'll happily see them rejoin with the other missing cubs. Wow. Very common lion behavior. Walk, lie down, walk, lie down. So before the other cubs get close and walk to join her, I'm going to move around so we can get a view of them coming down the road to see her. Isn't this absolutely wonderful? So, while we get around to the other side, let's go quickly across to Jamie, who's got something having a sundowner.
Our buffalo have finally made it to Sydney's dam, and without any further hesitation, they've all gone streaming right into the water, getting past the muddy edge and gathering to drink. And what is interesting about the way that the buffalo have approached the water is they show far less hesitation. Charming. And much like our hippo from earlier, don't have too much of a problem in terms of toilet plus drink in the same place. Now, what I was going to say is that they don't show the same degree of hesitation that the other animals do when they run in to go and drink. And that may well be because they generally aren't too bothered by crocodiles. Just imagine how big the crocodile would have to be that would manage to catch and drag down a buffalo. It is possible, but in this area it would be very, very unusual. They don't have to worry too much, unless they are buffalo calves, and even then they've got the huge herd surrounding them. So the crocodile would have to pick out which one they chose very, very carefully. Of course, there's the famous tale of the battle at Kruger, which I think everybody knows, which was that incredible tug-of-war between the lions, the buffalo calf, and the crocodile. Eventually, the buffalo calf managed to escape the attentions of both the lions and the crocodile, but after what could only be described as one of the most extraordinary sightings. And there we go, not lingering for too long. I think they feel a little bit exposed here. And I think probably relishing the drop in temperature that we've experienced this evening. The sun has started to go down, and it's definitely much, much cooler here. Still double checking, bunching together as a herd and making sure that they don't go wandering into any danger. The hardy-dars have just taken off. Can't see them from where we are, but we can definitely hear them. Lovely. And off they go. We're going to carry on and see what else we can find for the last half an hour or so of the... Oh, There's our stragglers. Lovely. Okay, well, while they make their way towards the water, we're going to carry on and see what else we can find. In the meantime, I think Steph has got a little bored and is apparently, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's playing with sticks. Let's go and see what he's up to.
I am indeed playing with sticks. I'm going to tell you why now. For years, and I'm literally talking about 10 years, I have been trying to make a fire by rubbing sticks together. And I've decided that today it's dry enough and hot enough and windy enough to try and do something with my fire sticks. Now this is a piece of blackjack, and as you can see, I can get smoke. You can see the smoke there. I'm going to add some fibers from a piece of zebra. Look at that, my stick smoking. I have it. It is so difficult. I can get smoke. I've never ever made a fire. And so what you got to try and do, you got to try and get a coal going from rubbing, from friction. And as you can see, much smoke now issuing from it. And what I'm going to try and do is get a little coal to fall out in that gap that I have there. Oh, I need to take this off. Hold on. My binoculars are getting in the way. I'm going to try and get a coal to form in the hole, and then onto that piece of elephant dung. Whoops. It is so hard on your hands. Yes, we can see smoke. I'm almost there. Whew, it's hard work. I've watched a little bushman friend of mine do this literally in 20 seconds. Here we go. Come on. You need an exceptionally dry area to do this. Come on. This is busy turning my fingers into sausages. Come on, you can do it. Let's see. No. No little ember yet. I've got to keep on practicing. And I've ruined my hole. You can see there. My hands, oh, blisters, blisters, blisters. You can see lots of practice still needing over here. But anyway, so much for that try today. We live to try again another day. And on that note, off to those little cubs.
Oh. So one of the little cubs has come right next to us. Wait for him to turn his... Oh, I can't see if it's a he or she at the moment, but wait for it to turn its eyes. And we're going to show you something quite special. Come on, turn your head. Come on, look this way. Now, they're all focused and listening to where there was a, or the lioness in particular is focusing on where there was a francolin came flying out of the bush, alarm calling, just to check if there was anything there. Oh, he's turned his head round. Now, hopefully we've still got enough light. But if you look carefully, oh no, don't close your eyes. In the reflection of his eyes, you could actually see us sitting in the car, but now, of course, Murphy's Law is not playing along. Darlene in San Francisco, one of the most beautiful cities in the world, is wondering, is it too hot for lions to hunt at the moment? When do they usually hunt? Now, Darlene, they're opportunists. As long as the hunt's not too long, they can hunt in the heat. but generally they prefer to hunt when it's cooler. So any time from now is a good time to hunt. I think the rest of the pride are on their way to join this lot. There we go. Hello, little one. They are up. There we go. Oh, just for half a second. Can you hear the Franklin's alarm calling? All these wonderful sounds. His head's so busy. Listening, smelling. Sounds, smells, sights. Oh, yes, I think she's running low on milk. Now the other lionesses are on their way. Hopefully they're a bit better resourced than she is, fully stocked. I think they're still quite far away, but I will keep an ear to the radio. Hopefully they do arrive before the end of the sunset safari. Oh, but she's up on the move and moving away from where they're coming from. Let's just see where she goes. She's right next to us. Hi, girlie. She's contact calling. Now, there is a possibility she is calling for the missing cubs. Or for the rest of the pride. It's impossible to tell. Or calling for these cubs to follow her. And as she turns to look back, I think that's the most likely. And this lot have just started to make a noise. Now, she's laying down directly behind the car, so the cubs are going to pass right next to us now. Here comes one, and they're going to go so close that they can see Brian. Brian, what are you doing? Look at it. Oh, maybe they can see the cub thumb. They think one of their friends might be on the vehicle. I mean, they're about 2 feet, less than 2 feet from the tire of the car. No, he's too tired to carry on. He's going to wait here. Okay, here comes the next one. Is he going to make it all the way? Is he going to get lazy and lie with its cousin? We actually cannot move the car. I've just realized as I've looked behind me, there's a lion cub lying right behind us. Yeah, so we are stuck here for the moment. Now, I think, there we go, there's the one lying right next to us, behind us. So while we wait for the lions to move off so we can move, let's go see what James is up to in the tent.
Straight across to the microscope feed, everybody. Check this out. This is a little jumping spider of an astonishing array of honey, gold and copper colors. And look at him, he's tiny. Now what he is, he's sitting on the brown tablecloth, an extremely cheap piece of fabric that we have here, but it's very finely woven, as you can see, and I just wanted to put him on this to show you the scale of this little fellow. He's about maybe 5 millimeters long. You can't even express that in imperial measurements. Look how tiny he is compared to he looks like he's sitting on a fairly large sort of sisal mat, but he isn't. It's pure cotton, and well, it's not pure cotton, it's largely synthetic polyester, but you get my drift. And what you can see there are his eyes on the top of his head. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets of eyes, and indeed probably 8, as if I'm not mistaken they've got 8 eyes. There's another set just in that sort of bald patch. It looks a bit like Stefan I. He's obviously a bit old. He's starting to bald on top there, but there's some light sensing eyes on the top there. Isn't he amazing? And let's just go back to his abdomen there. Let's focus down his abdomen. You can see his little pedipalps there on his head moving. Look at that. They're cleaning his little fangs and his little mouth. And I'll show you what we found him in just now. I struggled for a long time to make him sit still, everybody. Such is my skill at wrangling a 5 millimeter spider. And look at the hairs. Those hairs, very sensitive, very good at feeling the air and feeling the prey that he's trying to get hold of. They're not just there for decoration, salon quality though they may be. Isn't that cool? I think that's an amazing, amazing picture. And I'll just quickly show you what we found him in. He was living in this, the gall. I'm just going to put the microscope down. The gall of what is often referred to as the gall of a gall moth, at least not a moth, a gall wasp, that's found on a silver cluster leaf tree, but there's no wasp in here. And I don't know what this is, but look at all that incredible, incredible silk. And from it, or inside it, a whole lot of prey species. Whatever lived in here with that spider killed quite a lot of beetles in the interim of its life. Okay, let's head across to Steph. He seems to have a tree and hopefully some success with his fire.
Welcome back, and just have a look at what we found. This is such a rare treasure to see. For those of you who think that this is a rock, you're 100% right. What's your aerial? You're 100% right. But what this is also, it's a millstone. Can you believe it? A millstone for native corn and wheat. So women used to gather around these millstones, and with a round river rock, used to throw some corn or millet into this stone and then grind it. And over time, you get this lovely dished shape coming out of the rock. Now, I've read histories of why these millstones were broken. You can see that this millstone was broken. It looked like it's been hit with something. And the reason for that is King Shaka Zulu of the Zulu kingdom chased a cousin, I think, of his, called him Zilikazi, through this area in about 1920 to about 1940, somewhere around there. I can't remember the exact dates. And as the impis, his warriors, moved through this area, they broke the millstones when they found them, so that the people would come away from their hiding places and have to join his army because they were starving, they couldn't make food. And so this could come from that time, and it's just so exciting to see little bits of ancient history that come through here. So millstone, this was the base. A corn or the grains would be put here, and then using a river rock, they would then grind the grains, and the crushed maize would fall out the sides and would be collected in baskets. And then this very clear break through the middle of this millstone is just so indicative of the time between 1820 and 1840, when the impis of King Shaka would come through here and break these millstones to force the people into subjectivity, basically, into vassalage almost. Very, very cool. Anyway, that's us from the walk for today. So I just want to say thank you very much for joining us today. We're going to see you tomorrow again. So from myself and Dave and Rexon, I want to say have a good night. See you all soon.
And for our last few moments of our sunset safari, we've got one of the little antelope species that we hardly ever get to see. This is Brent's favorite, and I have to say it's one of mine as well. A little female bushbuck. They are just so incredibly beautiful. The same sort of color as a female Inyala, but with less obvious striping along the side, so the white stripes are not as clear as they are on an Inyala, and they've got far more white dots on them, and they're much, much smaller than an Inyala, but basically part of the same family, the spiral-horned tribe of antelope. Isn't she gorgeous? They love these dense drainage line areas where they can hide away. Very shy antelope, although they do habituate and get used to people very, very quickly. And we don't actually get to see bushbuck that often, except around our camp. Liam, are your bushbuck still living outside your room?
Yeah, it's there sometimes.
Still there sometimes. There was a little pregnant female that gave birth. Oh, where are you going? Off she dashes. Decided she's done being hidden behind the trees, and off she goes. Lovely. Oh, it seems as though we have reached the end of our sunset safari, so from myself and Viam, a big let's go to the lions, over to Brent.
The missing cubs have arrived! There they are! Isn't this wonderful? Brian's magic thumb! Yay! Just keep coming down. The 2 missing cubs have just joined the rest of the pride, so all 8 now. There we go! Looking a bit skinny, but they are here! They've survived! Isn't this amazing? Killer bees!
Killer bees!
Oh, and Brian's magic thumb! Yes! We've been talking about it all afternoon. Wouldn't it be amazing if the cubs arrived? I think she's calling for them, but I'm not sure. Then she suddenly just got up and ran behind the vehicle. Happiness! No. I'm happy to see you, but not that happy. So I think the rest of the lionesses are coming in from the north, and she's found the missing cubs now. She's heading back to the pride. We're going to stick with them, but I'm sure everyone is absolutely ecstatic. As I said, I was hoping. But so we still got 8 little wonderful Nkahumas. I'm sure there's 2 very hungry little Nkahumas. They looked a bit skinny, but none the worse for the wear. So they've survived how many days now? 5, 6?
Yeah.
5, 6 days on their own. Vernon, they're starting to head back north towards the dam. This is so incredible. I'm so happy. They're now all highly mobile. And female is on a mission. Obviously, she doesn't have much milk to give, so she probably wants to meet up with the rest of the pride. There we go, that's one of them. Look how skinny little one. Ow. Isn't this awesome? Ow! To you too, missing one. I think there's a good chance. There we go, she's calling. Look at this, they're going to meet up with the rest of the pride. Let's stick with them. Hopefully they don't take us too much thick, don't go into too much, I can't even speak, I'm so excited, too much thick bush. But it looks like we might get an incredible greeting ceremony. The whole pride rejoining with those 2 missing cubs. Please don't go that way. That way is very bad for us. I'm hoping she gets on the big elephant path that goes straight north to the Buffelshoek waterhole. Isn't this incredible? Vernon. Vernon, are you at Buffelshoek? Copy, yeah. I'm going to come join you there. The rest of the pride are running towards there now. Okay, sorry, my earpiece came out. Brian had to whisper. I got too excited. I pulled it out. So we're going to shoot up ahead to where the other 2 lionesses are out in the open. And we'll try to stick with them. We'll see. Hi, Sarah. Sarah says we've just made her year. So, guys, I think just for the greeting ceremony, I know there's only supposed to be 3 minutes left, but I think we can extend a little to see this. Isn't this amazing? So look at this. We're nearly at the other lionesses. There's only 2 of them, so probably the 2 mothers. And the cubs are running. So let's try get ahead so we can hear everything and get to the spot where those other lions are. Isn't this absolutely incredible? Here come the cubs. We've just got ahead of them. So they've managed to survive 5 days by themselves. They got separated for the pride. So this is the first time all 8 cubs have been together in about a week. And we can't see the other lionesses yet. On the other side of the dam, Brian's got them. So here come the mob. Isn't this just too special? There we go. I can see one lioness on the other side of the dam. There we go. Just spotted. It's just spotted the other lioness. Look at this. Off they tear. Remember, 2 of them have been lost for the last week. They've been by themselves in the bush. Okay, let's just roll forward a little bit. So everyone out at home is apparently crying with happiness. I'm very happy. There we go. Look at that. Magic. Nkahuma's reunited. And as Kirsten just said to me, what a perfect ending to the day. We could not have asked for a more magic moment. Brian and I have literally been hoping and wishing for it all afternoon. And if those of you who followed the thumb will notice, the thumb said maybe his lion cub thumb will bring back the missing 2 cubs, and it has. There we go. One can't help but feel all warm and fuzzy. So it is getting dark, and as you know, we don't put spotlights on the cubs. The mothers are reunited with their babies. This has been an absolutely spectacular sunset safari live. The killer bees are cooing. But from Brian and myself, and of course, we cannot forget the lion cub thumb. So here it comes, the lion cub thumb that brought the luck. We're going to say good night and absolutely amazing. We'll see you tomorrow morning, but quickly, one last view of that incredible Nkahuma pride.